Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. I'm your host, Marisa B. Today, I'd like to welcome author, public speaker, Belief Re-Patterning Practitioner, positive self-talk coach, and pleasure coach. Everyone, let's welcome Vireo Karvonen. Hi, Vireo. Thank you so much for coming today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Marissa, for having me.
My first question to you is, how did you get involved in this? I know you have a master's in education. You were a teacher. How did you get involved in the healing arts?
Yeah, that's a bit like jumping off the deep end, but I'll go there right away. Um, a big piece of it was my own healing. I had, I think, it was kind of a gradual process, but at one point I had, there's kind of two pieces. I think I really realized when I was younger, and a trigger warning here, because I will be talking about sexuality. Um, I was 10 years old and I had my first sexual experience of I was raped at 10. And that moment literally changed everything. From that moment on, in order to survive that experience as a young girl, I learned to disassociate from my body. I learned to disconnect completely from my body. And I wasn't even in this body. That's how I survived for decades. Um, and I actually knew when I was probably a young woman, it was like a decade later that I walked into the sexual assault center. There was no sexual assault when I was 10 years old. There was nothing. Um, but something drew me when I heard about it, and I had not told one single person.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 21, I walked into the sexual assault center, cried, and I had this knowing that I remember now as I reflect back on that. I had this knowing that someday, someday I am going to help young girls to know their bodies, to be sovereign in their bodies. I didn't even know the word at the time, but to be sovereign, to know their own bodies so they don't have to end up in a situation like I did, which unfortunately is all too common.
Yes, it is
And
indeed.
then fast track forward, I kind of planted that seed but forgot. I forgot that I made that sort of vow. Completely forgot. Life got busy. Um, I literally went from unhealthy to unhealthy to unhealthy relationship, some of them sexually abusive, some of them violent, because I wasn't here. I wasn't in this body.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't listen to this body. And I was in a 17-year marriage. And that in that marriage, no fault to that first husband. We were the
Mm-hmm.
blind leading the blind. But in terms of my sexual experience, we would have what Paulo Coelho in his book 11 Minutes called 11-minute sex, which
Mm-hmm.
most people are having 11-minute sex, which for most women, we're not even warmed up in 11 minutes. So we would have sex, and I would literally, he would be snoring beside me, super vulnerable every time I share this, but it feels like it's
Mm-hmm.
important. I would be laying beside him and I would put my hand under the covers and I would
Mm-hmm.
masturbate. And I can't even call it self pleasuring, Marissa, because it was
Mm-hmm.
completely devoid of pleasure. I was just trying to take the edge off of this
Yeah.
excruciating pressure and pain in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even have lube. I didn't know about lube or anything at the time. It literally was pain on top of pain to just like release this pressure in my body. And it was shame filled, completely shame filled. As a woman, I felt I must be broken. There must be something neurotically, physically, mentally, emotionally wrong with me. I didn't tell anybody. And that was our sexuality for 17 years most of the time.
Wow.
And I eventually left that marriage, not for the reasons of sex. There were bigger
Mm-hmm.
reasons that called me to leave that marriage, which don't serve in this moment to share. Um, but what happened was, after I'd left that marriage, I was really sitting with myself and I kind of went through the history of relationship after relationship. And what's the key ingredient? Me. I'm the key ingredient in all those relationships. And I realized two things. I realized I had to do something different. I didn't want to keep repeating that same
Mm-hmm.
pattern. And then I also realized, Marissa, that I had, I'm going to say wasted. I felt like I wasted so many years
Mm-hmm.
basically holding the men in my life responsible for my happiness and even my orgasm. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done with that. And I decided, I had no idea how, but I decided in that moment that I was going to find a way to pleasure myself, to get to know this body. And I literally dedicated 13 months, and I went and studied sacred sexuality, sacred femininity, learned things I didn't even know I didn't know about my own female
Mhm.
anatomy as a menopausal woman. I'm like, WTF, why aren't we taught this in the Western world? And so I started to get to know my body. I started to be here. I'm happy to say, I started to get myself to a place where I could have my own orgasm and pleasure, and it wasn't painful anymore. And what happened, literally, like, did you see the movie When Harry Met Sally?
Yes.
And remember, there's an orgasm scene where she's like, oh, and she's
Yes,
faking
indeed.
orgasm. And people in the restaurant are like, we'll have what she's
Yeah.
having.
Yes,
Literally,
exactly.
when I got back from studying in Thailand, and
Hmm.
over the next year of
Hmm.
mindset coach and training my
Hmm.
brain to think differently, dissolve the shape, women started coming to me, no pun intended, but pun taken. And they're like, we want what you're having, Vireo. Are you like high on life? What's going on? And so I gave birth to our pleasure program. And literally, women now are having what I'm having. They're more
Hmm.
confident in their bodies. They can ask for what they want. They're not dependent
Hmm.
on a partner for their own pleasure. They know how to navigate this body. And the thing is that when we can do that, we access this creative life force energy, this power that the world knows about because it uses it to manipulate and uses
Hmm.
sex for profit and to manipulate us in being disempowered. If we actually access that power on our own, then
Right.
we can harness that power. We can have our own connection to the divine. So
Mhm.
women started having, just more joy, more happiness, more pleasure, more
Mhm.
orgasm in all areas of their lives. And that's what I'm doing now, is continuing to
Mhm.
support women in that. So
But you have a whole system. I mean, there's positive self-talk. There's, of course, healthy eating. I mean, I myself actually took your 9-day challenge of the cleanse, which is with organic, healthy food. And well, in fact, I have to say to the audience, you and I were at an event in Canada. We were actually roomies there, and I learned from you how to make the actual drinks that I was using for the 9-day cleanse before I even joined the 9-day cleanse, because it was all healthy, organic food that you were using to blend up. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because it is an all-inclusive program that you really learn self-love first, correct?
yeah, absolutely. And let me backtrack too. I'm 62 years young. I feel and look younger today than I did at 40. I
Mhm.
have more energy, I have more vitality. Most people don't believe I'm 62. So I'm just going to add that in
Yes,
there as a little caveat. I'm
it's
62.
true.
And um, so one of the things in particular, the liver cleanse, is our liver, which is on the right
Mhm.
hand side of our body, just below our rib cage.
Mhm.
Our liver is where our sexual life force energy, our vitality comes from.
Mhm.
And most people, if not everybody's liver, is full of toxins from the environment,
Yes.
from pharmaceuticals, from x-rays, from
Mhm.
anger.
Mhm.
Anger is stored in the liver. So if you've ever been angry and you've swallowed it
Mhm.
down, you've stuffed it down.
Mhm.
We have decades of
Mhm.
toxic fatty livers, poor eating, poor
Yes.
diet, the North American, the sad diet, right? And so one of the big steps in our pleasure program, women are with me for 12 months, is yeah, we also cleanse the liver. So it's a
Mhm.
physical, mental, emotional, mindset. It's all of those pieces because you can't do one without the others. So yeah, the 9-day liver cleanse, which I'm now about to begin my fifth one,
Mhm.
is to clear those toxins out of the body so
Mhm.
that when your liver is functioning optimally, now your heart, your lungs, your spleen, your pancreas, your stomach, your master
Mhm.
glands, and your brain, your kidneys, then they can function. But if we've got too many toxins in the body, which is even a bigger deal for, in particular for women around our reproductive organs, what happens
Mhm.
is if the toxins get full in your liver and they don't have a place to go,
Mhm.
what the body does is it builds fat cells. So we get the fatty liver. It also
Mhm.
goes to our reproductive organs because they're not necessary for survival. So, I had cyst and
Hmm.
on my ovaries. I had a fibroid the
Hmm.
size of a grapefruit on my
Hmm.
uterus. So, and that was from toxins in my body. That was from taking the
Yes.
pill, which is a horribly toxic
Right.
thing for us as women, which
Hmm.
I didn't know when I was taking it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, the first step is we've got mindset, and then at the same time, cleansing the body. Because if the energy can't flow, you know, my
Right.
background is in Taoist Tantra, but there's lots everywhere in all modalities.
Hmm.
They talk about if the energy, the chi, the prana, if
Hmm.
it can't move in our bodies, if it's stuck, we get dis-ease. Um, Dr. Henry Lodge and Chris Crowley, who wrote Younger Next Year, there's one for women, one
Hmm.
for men. He says 70% of dis-ease is because we're sedentary and the energy is
Yes.
stuck. So by moving the body, by exercising,
Hmm.
by cleansing, doing a regular cleanse. I mean, we clean our cars, we change the oil, we
Right.
clean our houses, but we don't clean our own bodies,
Mhm.
which this is our temple for every single day. So yeah, that's a big
And our
piece. And
liver's a
thank you for that
filter, right?
reminder of,
Oh, no, there's no problem. I mean, our liver's a
yeah.
filter, right? And we're clogging up the filter. I mean, we're literally clogging up the filter, and often we don't even know that we're clogging up the filter. And that is something I read recently, that so many more people are being diagnosed with what they call non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is so sad to think that so many people are being diagnosed that way. People hear it, they're like, well, what does that even mean? And it's because of all the toxins that are flowing through the body, and people don't even know to cleanse. I mean, I have to tell you the truth. When I learned how to make the particular drink in the morning from you first in Canada, and then I came home, I told my daughter because she's using it too now, and we're doing it often. And then I did the cleanse with you. I feel much better. I feel so much better. And yes, I began to exercise a little more, and I still continue to exercise. In fact, I was there this morning. And it's only a 30-minute thing. It's nothing major, but it's just movement. And with the cleanse, because if you don't take care of this temple, who's going to take care of it for you? You have to be the person in charge, right? I mean, this is your temple. You have to be in charge. You have to know what you're putting in, what you're putting out. And I know this is a heavy topic, but how do you move? You can't even move into the heavy topic, right? Because how many people have to first get themselves acclimated, right? Because you're not going to automatically move into this heavy topic of possibly sexuality or self pleasure or enjoyment. That's a little bit difficult, especially for a lot of women, right? I mean, it's frightening for them to speak about, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we have what I would call a negative culture around sexuality. We, even if you didn't grow up religious, especially if you grew up religious, but even if you
Hmm.
didn't, we, the female body, Adam and Eve, Eve was blamed for everything, right?
Right.
We have
Right.
the the culture uses
Mhm.
our sexuality to disempower us, uses us to think we're not good enough and we have to lift this up, pull this in, do this, buy that.
Hmm.
And so we're not in a it's not a safe, positive culture for talking around sexuality. And so most women, if not every woman that I've been blessed to work with, we have so
Hmm.
much shame. We have body shame,
Yes.
we have shame to even talk about it. Some people who are
Hmm.
listening right now might even feel shame, like, God, I hope nobody walks in the room by him listening to
Hmm.
this topic. So
Right.
that's a big piece, is dissolving the shame around it. And then, yeah, when we circle back to the liver cleanse,
Hmm.
a lot of women, it's hard to love our bodies if we have this extra weight, especially as
Right.
we go into menopause. So we got to love our body as it is. And doing the liver cleanse, I think every single woman let go of some pounds. But
Hmm.
what was beautiful is they've kept it off, because diets typically don't work because people don't change their lifestyle. When I do the
Right.
9-day liver cleanse, you notice it was about not just those 9 days, but now how do you take some of the lifestyle skills you
Hmm.
learned and move them into your daily life, so
Hmm.
that you keep the release
Yeah.
off of the toxins, keep the release off of the weight, and then you get to decide, you know how are you going to eat moving forward? Are you going to continue to ingest these
Right.
poisons, or are you going to not? And you get to decide, and then you get to decide your mindset, right? So it's
Mhm.
all those sort of key factors are there.
And so, how do you help women? I mean, especially, I would assume that um, women that are a bit older, it's even more embarrassing for them, as you said, there's menopause or, sometimes perimenopause, menopause happening, there's postmenopause, there's body changes, and so there's body image issues. How do you help someone? Where should they start? Say the audience now, people, women are out there listening. They know that they want to do something, but they're not even sure where to start. What would you say to them? How does one even go about starting this? um, because I know they shouldn't feel any shame. We can say that as much as we want, but to give them the impetus to start, to say, contact you, or to find someone in their area that'll help them. What do you say to them?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is I actually have a very simple practice, and probably a lot of people have heard of a piece of this. Um, is I would have them literally just take their own hands and,
Mm-hmm.
and put them on their body, just on your own body,
Mm-hmm.
and you do a whole ponopono. And it's, I love you, like I love you.
Yes.
I'm so sorry for the times I neglected you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry for the times I, didn't talk nicely to you,
Mm-hmm.
criticized you. Please forgive me for all that criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Please forgive me for ignoring you. Thank you. And then I would do it again. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for the times I overate. I'm sorry for the times whatever sort of comes to the mind,
Mm-hmm.
you're cleansing the thought, you're cleansing the things around the body. And that would be the first step. And then the second step would
Mm-hmm.
be to take your hand and put it on your yoni. Yoni is Sanskrit for our female genitals. It means
Mm-hmm.
sacred passage,
Mm-hmm.
cave of wonder, which
Mm-hmm.
is way better than some of the other words that we have. The definition of the other more scientific are
Mm-hmm.
are so disconnecting for us as women, right? So I love to invite women um, to claim the word yoni,
Mm-hmm.
sacred passage, cave of wonder. So right now, women that are listening, you can literally just put your hand on your yoni, one on your heart,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
do the whole ponopono again. So just like, I love you. Breathe it in, like really telling your yoni in your body, like, I
Mm-hmm.
love you. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for spending so many years and decades not even listening to you. Please forgive me for not listening to you. Thank you. And then I would do it again and again and again. I might do it daily
And it's
for
a
a
simple
while. I did
practice,
that.
right? Yes, it's a simple practice, but you can do it daily. It's a simple practice, but like you said, you were doing it yourself daily for quite a while to get yourself acclimated to believing in all of that, really, because if it's constant repetition, it's positive repetition, right? And it brings you to, it's almost an affirmation, forgiveness, a mantra. It's everything, right? It's something simple, but a wonderful thing for women especially to use.
Yeah, and the big piece of it is it helps you to kind of clear the garbage, clear some of
Mhm, mm,
the 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 old hurts, the criticism, clear some of that out and start to connect with your body. Because my experience has been most of us, if not all women, we are so disconnected from our bodies. We're
mhm,
disconnected from our feminines because our culture doesn't support it. There's a lot of fear around it. Like, if
mhm,
I do that, oh my God, this might happen, or this might happen, or this might happen. So it's like, just start to connect with the body, start to listen to the body. And I will be honest, when I first started doing this practice, Marissa, I
mhm,
felt nothing. I felt like numb. I didn't even, my hand is on my yoni, but I don't actually feel it. Now I literally, it's like I can
mhm,
feel the pulse of my yoni now. And the
mhm,
women in our pleasure program that work with me, they start to like, oh my God, my yoni just talked to me. I went somewhere and my
mhm,
yoni went no. And another time my
mhm,
yoni went yes. They could feel her
mhm,
opening and closing and giving messages.
mhm.
But we're so disconnected. It's like that's why we're,
Yes.
excuse the only analogy I can come with, we're raping and pillaging the Mother Earth
Mhm.
right now.
Right.
And when we actually
Exactly.
start to honor our own bodies as women, and we start to make sure that
Mhm,
whoever's in contact with our body, regardless of your sexual preference, that we make
mhm,
sure that this is a sacred passage. Nobody
Yes.
gets to enter this passage without my permission and
Mm-hmm.
respect. And when each of us starts to respect our own body in this sacred
Mm-hmm.
passage, our yoni, then we also invite everybody else, males and females in the world, to do the
Mm-hmm.
same. And that's going to be our doorway into loving Mother Earth more and taking care of her, right?
Right, right. And we have a right to respect ourselves, and to value ourselves. And so many people feel that they don't have a right. And so that's why we have such issues, right, on the planet, because if we respect ourselves and then we respect others, and if we see value in ourselves, if we understand how magnificent we are, we then in turn understand how magnificent each one of us is in our own right. And I think that that's a big problem, that many of us don't yet have that feeling and don't yet get there. And that's the next question. How do people find you? Like, do you have groups? I know a lot of people have private groups, say on Facebook, because these are certain things that maybe people don't want to speak about out in open in public. How do people get in touch with you? First of all, let me hear about the groups that you're doing now.
Yeah, so I do have a group. It's kind of rebirthing because my dad passed a year and a half ago, and I was posting regularly. Now I was posting weekly for a while, and I just that's all the capacity I had.
Mhm.
It's been I've been posting it more now again. So that's called Sacred Pleasure Path Sisterhood. You do need to answer the three questions to join the group
Mhm.
because that's how we keep it safe and sacred.
Mhm.
So if you don't answer the questions, you don't get into the group. My assistant takes care of that. So that's a safe place where you can talk about sex, you can post things. I share teachings in there, I do offerings in there. And then the other place is find me on Facebook is the
Mhm.
best one. Is Facebook is I do a lot, mostly on my personal page. I just
Mhm.
find my business page is there, but it seems to get
Yes.
way more traction the way the algorithms on Facebook. So
Mhm.
just for my first name, Vireo Karvonen
Mhm.
on Facebook is the best
Mhm.
best place probably. I am on Instagram and I am on LinkedIn as well. My most present one that I'm really familiar with
Mhm.
is the Facebook one is probably the best one where
Mhm.
I'm literally posting several times a day and lots of sharing and um
Yes. Well,
yeah,
I
and
will put
lots
all
of
those, I will
amazing
put all those
summits and
in.
things that you and I.
Yes, yes. Yes, and I will put those in the description, because I know that I personally even look, because that's how I hear what you're doing and what you're saying to the public. I check out your pages as well, because I always like to hear what everybody's saying. And even as a therapist, I like to get positive boost from other positive individuals, because I know that community is very important. And when you have the correct community around you, you have support. And so I definitely will do that, that I will put all of those in the description so people can find you. And but you also are a public speaker and you've done a lot of forums. People can actually go and hear a lot of your speaking engagements. You have some clips out there, correct? Because I've seen quite a few clips.
Yeah, there's lots that are out there and I have links to them on my Facebook page. I have links to them on
Mhm.
YouTube. I have links to them. Yeah, like there's lots. You and I are part of many beautiful, amazing
Yes.
sisterhoods and women and professional speakers. So that is continuous. I will
Mhm.
always be speaking on stages, both
Yes.
in person and
Yes.
online as well. So they can
Yes.
definitely
And I
find
know
me on
that you have.
those.
Right. And I know that you have them on your Facebook page. I would advise people to listen, because I know that this is a topic that can be scary for a lot of women. They almost don't want to address it. I'm sure you found that with clients, that it's very difficult for them to address this issue. If they even attempt to dip their toes in the water, they still often close up, correct? They don't want to discuss things. They're fearful. Like you said, there's a lot of shame around it, especially older women, because we're supposed to not be wanting to talk about this. We're supposed to almost forget about this. It's supposed to be only for the young, which is so incorrect, such a fallacy. But do you find that with a lot of clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give an example of one client who was in her 60s. And then also, I want to just mention one of my talks that is actually
Mhm.
supporting women and dissolving some of what you're talking about because it is so prevalent. So, Rebecca, who she was in her, I'm going to say mid late 60s, she had not had an orgasm or sex, including solo sex, for 18 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
she thought this part of her life was done. Like,
Mhm.
I'm an older woman, it must be done. I've dried up. It's not acceptable, it's not
Mhm.
appropriate. Thankfully, a mutual friend said, "Oh no, you need to talk to Vireo, the pleasure coach." So she started working with me in our pleasure program. And I'm happy to say that she's now having the most orgasmic time of her life. She first got to know her own body, her own
Mhm.
combination for her yoni. She learned pleasure practices. We transformed the shame. She started to understand how vital
Mhm.
sexuality is for her own vital health of her organs.
Mhm.
Literally, for example, your clitoris is actually nourishing your kidneys, which are your battery pack.
Mhm.
So she started, every month we focused on a different organ and
Mhm.
different pleasure practices. She started to have her own orgasms. And now she's in relationship and she's having the best sex of her life ever.
Mhm.
And she's way more youthful. She's way more confident. This is the time as women that we're actually the most creative, is when we enter menopause, because now we're not
Mhm.
bleeding and we have this energy. So now she's been
Mhm.
learning things. She offers a queen program, like she's doing all kinds of things. She's now fulfilled
Oh,
on
lovely.
purpose in this time of her life. And so one of the pieces that I share in a talk that I have that I do regularly,
Mhm.
and this one, I'm about to upload one of them onto YouTube shortly, so it should be there,
Mhm.
is called The Naked Truth:
Mhm.
3 sex myths that every woman deserves to know. So the first thing is just to dissolve some of the
Mhm.
lies that we've been told as women. And I know that talk, I just had a woman yesterday who messaged me and said,
Mhm.
"I want you to know I heard you speak whatever 4 months ago." And she said, "Your
Mhm.
talk actually helped me to move through trauma and to um, acknowledge I had this birthright to pleasure."
Mhm.
And she's also in her 60s. So it's literally vital for your vitality is your
Mhm.
sexuality. And we've been disempowered by all the lies that we've been told and the shame. So that's a big piece. So common here, the naked truth, 3 sex myths that
Mhm.
every woman deserves to know. And let's just clear away some of the lies so you can reclaim your birthright to pleasure, and maybe just get curious about, like, do I want to miss out on this for the rest of my life? Do I want to
Right.
not be healthy? I like your health is literally connected to your sexuality.
Yes, of course. Of course. And stuffing that down, keeping that at bay, that causes more issue, even a physical issue.
It literally makes us sick. Yeah, it makes us sick. It makes us depressed.
Mhm.
Um, we have 1 in 4 women with breast cancer right now.
Yes.
I've lost 3 friends to breast cancer. My mom is a survivor. I have another friend who's a survivor. And a big part, Marissa, and everybody listening, is because we're disconnected from our bodies, from our breasts.
Mhm.
We're totally disconnected. The doctor, a partner, touches them more than we do. So that's one of the things, is getting to know this body.
Yes. Which I'm assuming for some might be frightening at first. That's why I was thrilled when you said that you had some time to come on, because I wanted the audience to hear that it might be frightening, but there is no shame in it, right? I mean, we have to have these conversations. We have to talk about these things. It really is natural, and it's really been suppressed through no fault of our own, but been suppressed from whomever, the powers that be, and that women are fearful. And I knew, especially women that were older, like you said, they almost think that this is something that, they're never going to have this again in their life. And that's a terrible feeling to have, a terrible way to look at it.
Yeah, and maybe some of you who are listening, not only do you have the fear, maybe you're like, "I've never liked sex. I did not like sex for 17 years in that marriage. I
Wow.
thought, what's the big deal? Why are people making a big deal about it?" Well, it is a big deal because it's your
Hmm.
health.
Hmm.
So even aside from the pleasure, it's got lots
Hmm.
of pleasure, but
Yes.
your health is actually,
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I don't want to just live long. I want to live long, dance,
Healthy.
swim,
Yes.
make love, do the things I love. I
Hmm.
want to live. I want to live. I don't want to just
Yes.
be alive. So if you want to live your
Hmm.
life, then yeah, fear is normal. And here's the thing with fear. If you think about a caterpillar and a chrysalis,
Hmm.
when that caterpillar it's got this praxis, is literally
Mhm.
shaking. It is terrified it's going to die. Well, guess what?
Mhm.
Pieces of the caterpillar do die so that the
Yes.
butterfly can emerge. So the
Mhm.
fear is normal. Fear is always going to be
Mhm.
when you're on the precipice of going from what's comfortable and what's new and what's familiar.
Mhm.
Whenever you step out into something
Mhm.
different, you are out of your comfort zone, you will absolutely feel fear. And what I do when I feel fear now is I go,
Yeah.
yes, I'm about to change. I'm about to go from
Mhm.
chrysalis to caterpillar. And so if we can take the fear and harness that energy and
Mhm.
also get support, that's one of the things I have a gift to share at the end that
Yes.
will support in that, because
Mhm.
the fear is real. It's there, right? And we still want to address it. And then
Mhm.
we want to move through it so that we can
Mhm.
harness this power in our lives and reclaim our right to have a healthy, vibrant,
Mhm.
passionate, pleasure filled, fulfilling life.
Now, and oh, I agree with you 100%. And now I think though, you mentioned about the that you're going to be starting the cleanse again. Do you think that that's a great way for some people to start that might be fearful, like exceptionally fearful, to ease into maybe the liver cleanse to get themselves acclimated to further look into, their
Yeah,
pleasure? What do you think?
that would probably be the easiest way for sure. Yeah, that's an easy way. And that I'm for sure twice a year offering that. There's one coming in November
Mhm.
right away that I'll be starting. Um, yeah, that's an easy way to just like start to connect with the body, give the body what it needs, clear some of those toxins out so that it's kind of like a bit of house cleaning, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes we're not ready for company or relationship or anything. It's just like, oh, I just need to like clean my house right now. So we're
Mhm.
going to clean house. We're going to
Right.
like clear
Right.
some of the beliefs. We're going to, because that's the thing, is it's not just a physical cleanse. When I work with the liver cleanse, I bring in my
Mhm.
mindset superpower tool.
Mhm.
So we get to actually transform some of the beliefs as well. Because most of us, we're carrying the belief that we're not worthy and we actually
Right.
don't deserve to be healthy and pleasure filled. So we're going to clear some of those beliefs that
Mhm.
actually block you from living a healthy, pleasure filled life.
Mhm. And then you mentioned that you have a free gift for the audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know that it's really going to be helpful to those that are just teetering on the point that they know that they want to join, but they're fearful. They're something doesn't let them go forward. So can you tell the audience about the gift?
Yeah, absolutely. So the gift is called Shame Buster Guide, and it supports any woman
Mhm.
in increasing feeling confident with her body naked body confidence. So I literally, it's a 13-page document, and I
Mhm.
walk you through the 7 steps that I take the women in our 12-month pleasure program.
Mhm.
I walk you through the 7 steps, hold your hand, and we're going to move through forgiveness and dissolving some of the
Mhm.
beliefs and move away from, probably, if not every woman I've worked with, when we're naked in front of the mirror,
Mhm.
the self talk is not good. It's not good. So we're going to acknowledge that self talk. And then I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to move towards, step by step. I'm going to move you towards claiming that your body it's natural, and you may not be ready to say, I look beautiful in front of the mirror. So the first step might just be to accept that you're
Mhm.
grateful for this body, that it's giving you life. You're grateful. So you're going to move towards having gratitude for your body, that you
Mhm.
have this body and you're alive, and vitality and health. So that's kind of the first step, is let's dissolve some of the negative self-talk,
Yes.
and I walk you through the steps so you can start to embrace
Mhm.
positive self-talk. And that's when I initially started doing that. I literally, for
Mhm.
365 days after I started to transform those beliefs, when I would see
Mhm.
myself in front of the mirror, I would say something kind. And if I heard myself say something negative, I would stop and I would say, I'm sorry. If you wouldn't say it to a girlfriend, if you wouldn't say it to a dear friend,
Right.
don't say it to yourself. I would stop and I'd
Mhm.
say, I'm so sorry. And then I would give myself 2 compliments. but they had to be true. I had to believe them. So it could be, I
Mhm.
would tell myself, I love your smile. I would say, I love your
Mhm.
smile, Vireo. And if it was the love your smile for days, that was okay.
Yes.
Or I love my big toe.
Mhm.
Like you start gentle. Because for some
Mhm.
people, to stand buck naked in front of the mirror and
Oh,
say, I look beautiful
I
is
don't
not
think I
real.
would.
It's not
Yeah, no,
real.
but I don't even think I would stand in front of the mirror. I don't think I would do that at all. Stand in front of the mirror, that would be, no, definitely something I wouldn't do. So I can imagine that there are many people out there that wouldn't do it either. And it is fearful. I think a lot of it has to do with comparing these forced comparisons that have been thrust upon us as to what's supposed to be, the correct beauty, the quintessential beautiful woman, which has come from, you know, people that aren't even women. Let's put it that way, right? I mean, I always remember that young woman who did that project about the Barbie doll, that she actually created a life-size version of a Barbie doll based on the specifications of the Barbie. And it was a grotesque looking thing because it's not normal. It's not natural. And I always remember that. That was quite a number of years ago. And the reality is that I think a lot of us are fearful because when you get in front of the mirror, you're comparing yourself to who knows what, whatever this ideal is that's been told to you. But you're right. It's just to say your smile is already the beginning of breaking through. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're inundated with that cultural
Mm.
negative stuff. People, companies profit more if we don't like our bodies, we don't like ourselves, right?
Right.
So it's something that we need to own as a women because nobody's going to give it to us. We have to give it to ourselves.
Mhm.
So just starting to increase your confidence and finding some positive things you can say about
Mhm.
yourself, acknowledging the negative, but then walking through the document literally has spaces for you to write what's going on in your own mind, and
Mhm.
to start to transform those so that you can increase your confidence
Mhm.
with just your gratitude for this body, for the parts you can start to feel confident about. Like I said, yeah, my smile, your smile, something,
Mhm.
or just the fact that you have two legs that you can walk, you have two eyes that you can see. If you're listening to this, you have two ears that can hear, right?
Mhm.
My
Yes.
mom right now can't really see anymore. So
Mhm.
the things that we take for granted, if you
Mhm.
go back to your
Yes.
basic needs, right? Basic body functions, just
Mhm.
gratitude. Um, Instead of criticizing this body, right? It's like, okay,
Mhm.
can I just be grateful for what it does for me? It allows me to walk, you know.
Yes. I think it's I think it's very hard. It's very hard for everyone, but especially women. And especially when others feel the need to tell you something that they believe um, is better for you, or that how you would look better with X, Y, and Z. I think a lot of times, I mean, I'm sure that some of those people are well-meaning, but often they don't need to. That's my opinion. They don't need to tell you what their belief system is. They need to just worry about their own belief system. But sometimes people, they may mean well, and I think that that causes a lot of problems, especially for women. It causes a lot of problems when you hear that negativity thrown at you because already especially if you're working on it, you're working of not having those negative thoughts inside yourself. You're trying to get rid of the negative patterns. It's difficult when other people chime in. You have to almost build a shell, some hard shell around yourself, right? Because that inevitably does happen.
Yeah, it happens a lot. So one of the things that I like to do is when somebody says something negative and critical, I just go, ouch. That was an
Mhm.
ouch. And then I pause. Usually they'll apologize. If they don't, I'll say, ouch again. And I'll say, that was not nice.
Mhm.
That was not nice. And then, then I tell myself something that is true about myself. The other thing, many coaches and mentors have said this, it's like what other people think of me is none of my business.
That's right. That's right.
And the reality is, as they've got one finger pointed at us,
Mhm.
how many do they have towards
They have
themselves?
many more, yes,
Right?
pointing
Three.
at
So
themselves. That's
usually what they're criticizing us about, Don Miguel in the Four Agreements says,
mhm,
don't take anything personal because it's not
right.
actually personal. When they're pointing at us, they're
Right.
actually talking about themselves.
Yes.
The other thing that you
Yes.
mentioned earlier, Marissa, was the comparison. And again, we're in a world that profits when we
Yeah.
compare ourselves to other women, and we usually come up
Hmm.
short, right? We either come up that we're better than them, or we come up less than, or more
Hmm.
than. And so I love that where we met, right, in
Hmm.
our women's groups and that
Yes.
we're actually collaborating together, we're
Hmm.
cooperating. That's the feminine paradigm. That's
Hmm.
the divine feminine paradigm way,
Hmm.
rather than the wounded feminine, which is comparison, betrayal,
Right.
gossip, all of those, right? So when we can embrace the divine feminine, we get to lift each other up and believe in this
Hmm.
abundance that there's more than enough for all of us.
Right. Exactly. And the thing is that everybody is magnificently unique. And so you should be celebrating that, right? And you should be telling others that. If somebody has, I mean, I love your dress. It's purple. It's beautiful. I know you love purple. That's just because we had that conversation. So it's a beautiful color. And I love it. It looks great. If you don't say that to someone, what's the crime in saying that? It's what you feel, what you believe. Why not say it to the person? Oftentimes it's just too much criticism, I think, of others. And, like I feel like this is a full-time job to take care of me. Like I have no time to criticize anyone because I got to work on me all the time. That's how I feel. It's a big job. It's a heavy burden that I got to worry about me. I don't have time to say to someone, you're too short, you're too tall, you're too young, you're too old. I don't have time because this is just too much work for me. So, but if I see something that someone, that their hair looks nice, their dress looks nice, why would I not say that? That's no harm to me that I've said that to them. And I think oftentimes that's why I believe in community so much, a like-minded community, because that's where you get your support. And I know you feel the same way, especially with the topics that you discuss.
Yeah, the sisterhood, the support, the community is vital. Having your own
Mhm.
willingness to change, first of all, and you do amazing work with women as well, and that's
No, thank
so
you.
needed on the planet, right? So having someone to support you that you trust and
Mhm.
you feel safe with, and then having the sisterhood, having the
Mhm.
community, is vital. Somebody who is going to reach over and lift us up rather than push us back down when
Yes.
we fall, right? We all need that. So, and then our own willingness to
Hmm.
change, right? So the personal willingness,
Yes.
the mentor, coach, somebody to work with. And then the
Hmm.
third piece is to, yeah, have the community. Surround yourself with people that go, yay, I'm happy
Yes.
for you, or hey, how can I support you? Rather
Hmm.
than comparison and gossiping, beating down. And it changes with each
Hmm.
of us, right? If I stop criticizing myself,
Right.
I actually have one of the things I do with everybody in my life. If somebody that I'm with criticizes themselves, I actually say to them, don't talk to my friend that way. And they look at me like, what? And I said,
Mhm.
you're my friend and
Yes.
you just criticized yourself. And I don't want you to talk to my friend that way.
Oh,
So
that's good.
I
Yeah,
have
that's nice
a
to
kind of a
say.
rule, an
I'm going to say
agreement that
one
they
minute. If we
then need
hear
to say,
banging, they're on my roof. If you hear, I want to apologize to the audience and to you as well, my guest speaker. If you hear banging, they're on the roof now. So, but that's life. But yes, but you're absolutely right. That's a good thing to say. I like that. I'm going to try that because how many times do we hear our friends, our family put themselves down, right? Or say something negative to them, to themselves. That's, out loud, they make a comment. That's very good. That's a very good thing to say.
yeah, I'll say to them, don't talk to my friend that way. And then I say, and now I want to hear two things that you appreciate or like
Mm,
about yourself, which I'm going to be
that's
honest,
lovely.
for some people, it's really hard. They're like, I don't know. I don't know what I like
Yeah,
about
isn't
myself.
that
I don't know what.
sad?
So then I'll help them. Then I help them. I say, well, here's something I
Mhm.
see in you. Here's a quality I see in you. So I see in you this amazing perseverance, this amazing
Mhm.
um, generosity that you have from the moment I met you. You have this open heart. You have
Oh,
this
thank
way
you.
of creating community. You have this. I love all the things you do in nature and with your garden and your plants. And
Oh,
there's a
thank
generosity to you that just overflows. So we can remind each other, this is
you.
the
Mhm.
reflection I see in you, right? The
Oh,
gifts I see
thank
in
you.
you, and we can lift each other up that way.
And I think you are one of the most courageous women because not many women would. discuss what happened to them that was tragic, and then go out and help other women. That's a lot of courage. To me, you're a warrior, right? A warrior, a heroine to me. So I applaud you, and I thank you for being out in the world to help everyone, because so many people need it. So many people, so many women, especially, that have been abused, been neglected, been downtrodden, that they don't even know where to turn. And I think that we speaking about these things, making our voices heard, explaining what's going on, that they have some anchor, something to latch on to that they never had before, because a lot of these things are shrouded too, right? A lot of these are kept secret. And you're told to keep them secret, and you're told to, keep your mouth shut. That you have to live with whatever happened to you, or you have to live with the way you look, or, you don't compare. And you have to take that, on the chin. And I think that that's a terrible way to have to be. I feel everybody is magnificent, magnificently unique, and everybody has a right to be loved, and everybody has a right to live a rich and radiant life. That's why I call the show Radiant Living. Everybody has a right to that. We all do. And I want to spread that, because why would we not? We're here for such a short amount of time. Why would we not want to all have the most beautiful things around us, enjoy everything that's around us? It's there's too much negative, I think, and we don't need to have negative. So I do want to thank you, because you are definitely a warrior out there.
Thank you so much, Marisa. I really appreciate that. And I will tell you that my small Vireo self that lives in the cabin in Northern Alberta, Canada, would rather not do this work.
Yes.
And there's something deeper in my soul that is so committed to the 10-year-old in me, to other women, that I don't want them to miss out on the magnificent, orgasmic, ecstatic, blissful life that they could have. Yes. That I don't want another woman to waste another breath of her life. And so that is the part of me. And when I hear people like you and somebody say what a difference it makes, that's what inspires me to, okay, yes. I'll keep talking yes. about this often taboo subject, which it sometimes, as my father would say, it lands like a turd in a punch bowl. So yes, it's not always
it does,
welcome,
but it you know what? But it has to. It has to.
Yeah. Well, and I love that about you, that not everybody's willing to have me on their podcast, right? Because some people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Some people have even said to me, my listeners won't want to hear that. And I'm like, okay. So I love that.
I say they have to listen,
brave enough, and badass.
I say they
enough.
have to listen to it. They have to listen to it. And listen, statistics: 8 out of 10 children are sexually assaulted. And at 10 years old, you were sexually assaulted. And it was no fault of your own. And if this one person hears this, that either it happened to or it's happening to now, they have the right to speak up. Tell one adult, tell 2 adults, tell 10 adults, because it's not your fault. And you have a right to live radiantly, and not to let anybody take that away from you. And that's why I would never say, do not speak about this. It has to be spoken about. How many times has it been squashed to not being spoken about? That's why I applaud you for what you're doing.
And thank you. I really appreciate that. The piece that's coming up that I want to share, I know we've talked a long time already, but it feels important. 2 pieces. If there's somebody listening that you were also sexually assaulted at a young age, there is not your fault. It's not what you wore. It's not where you were. It's nothing you did. It's not your fault.
That's right.
Absolutely zero. And then the second piece is to get some support, like get support, so that you can dissolve that belief, so you can start being here in this body. You have a right to be here. And then the third piece that I'm super excited about, because it feels important, is, and this is what I'm going to circle back to where we started. When I was in my 20s and I walked into the sexual assault center, I said, one day I will work with young girls. So I'm actually interviewing, I've got 13 women and their daughters who are 10 to 16 that I'm about to interview. And so if you are a mother with a daughter and you're like, I don't want my daughter disconnected from her body. I don't want a daughter who's
Mhm.
disempowered. I want a daughter who knows this body. I don't know how to teach her or talk to her because
Mhm.
my mom didn't talk to me about sex. I don't even know how to talk to her about her body and sex. I'm interviewing women, and I know the interview itself will start to support women in getting more clarity around that. So if anybody wants to be interviewed, I'm going to be doing that in the
Mhm.
next couple months, so that we can have, because the reality is I can support women,
Mhm.
30s, 40s, 60s, 80s, 70s,
Yes.
all at later years. My biggest goal is I want to support young girls when they're beginning
Mhm.
their menstrual, their moon cycle, so that
Mhm.
they can be empowered and sovereign in their own bodies, and they don't have to look outside of themselves for their needs, that they learn how to give them to themselves so they end up in
Yes.
healthier relationships.
Yeah.
And I think we need more, young girls on the planet that feel safe in their bodies. And every woman, every girl, every person deserves to feel safe
Mhm.
in her body and her feminine expression. So,
Yes. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And that it's not selfish and self-centered, it's self-care. And that's what
yeah.
especially young women should know that. Because often it's said that, oh, they're selfish, but it's not. It's self-care, and that's important. So, but Vireo, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I so appreciate it that you came on and spoke to the audience. Such important work that you're doing, and helping so many people out there that I really applaud you.
My pleasure, my delight. I am so grateful to be here. And thanks for everyone who's listening, and reach out, connect with me. I'm here.
Yes, perfect. I will definitely put all of the contacts in the information. Everyone, thank you for coming today. Thank you again, Vireo. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll speak soon.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.